Did you miss anything from the last page? I hope not. I'm sorry about that. It was well, just OBS, apparently. Okay, so uh, yeah, he did not give her a signpost right away, and he noticed that her cheeks were actually forming a smile. That's why what I was in the last page. I don't know if you missed that. I hope not. The stream rest in peace on you reading. It's a sign. It's one more day, Rusty. I promise. I will do something with action tomorrow. So, you know, she says to Kane, I'm beginning to wonder. About what? Why I was ever born? Kim is at a loss for words, but she does not let this prevent her from continuing. I mean, if I'm going to die so young, when I've never had a chance to fall in love, wouldn't it have been better if I'd never been born at all? It better be Resident Evil. No promises, no promises. Kim nods as if to tell her that he understands. Why was I ever born? This is the question that Kane himself has been pondering all through his endless journey. He has still not found the answer, and maybe never will. My mother and father will be sad, I'm sure. You had better rest now. Maybe I was born to make my parents sad. Close your eyes and take a few long deep breaths. Can I have some more medicine? This time he gives it to her without hesitation. Thank you, she says, simply for the first time, and closes her eyes. I guess it's possible I might never wake up again. It's possible. It's a good thing to die without suffering, isn't it? It probably is. And to die with your head in a fog, without thinking or feeling anything. That's a good thing too, isn't it? Kaim says nothing. This is a question he cannot answer. A question he does not want to answer. Ari falls asleep without asking him anything else. She is still sound asleep when the doctor examines her and tells Kaim she will probably pass away before the night is out. It is late that night, close to dawn, when Ari begins to suffer. I'm sorry, Mommy, I'm sorry, I hate the jam, it was me. She is running a high fever with large drops of sweat on her forehead as she moans deliriously. What's taking you so long, Daddy? Hurry, hurry, the butterfly is going to fly away. Kim wonders if she could be reliving memories of her childhood. You hit me. Big brothers shouldn't hit their little sisters. You're bad. I'm gonna tell Mommy. Convulsions rack her entire body. Let me in. I want to play with the big girls. It doesn't end with her delirium. She starts moving her arms as if trying to embrace family members floating above her. This is what they were afraid of, the side effects. Take me with you, please. I don't want to stay here. Don't leave me. Her cries mingled with tears. Hallucinations seemed to have taken the place of past memories in her empty eyes. Please, I'll be good. I'll do what you tell me, Mommy and Daddy. Take me with you. In fact, just the opposite is happening. The ones being left behind are the family who so love their youngest daughter. Hurry. Don't leave me alone. Mommy, Daddy, come back, please. He can feel her pain and sorrow. Her convulsions become increasingly violent. Her face contorts in agony. Alerted by the commotion, a doctor comes charging into the room. "What are you doing?" he shouts at Kane. "Put her out of her misery, now!" Kane knows what he should do. This is what he was hired for. The poison that will prevent Henri from suffering anymore is within easy reach. What he takes hold of softly, however, is not the poison, but the hands that Henri stretches out into empty space. "What are you doing?" the doctor shouts at him. "Stop it! This is in direct violation of your duties. You're fired!" Kane turns towards the fuming doctor and says simply, "Be quiet, please." "What in the hell are you?" The doctor breaks off his shouting when he catches sight of the look on Henri's face. She's smiling. "Are these my mother's hands, my father's, big brother's, big sister's? Tell me, whose hands are these?" she asks joyfully. Feeling the strength of Kane's grasp, she squeezes back, an almost indescribably happy smile on her face, tears streaming from her eyes. "I'm here with all of you, together, always." Her convulsions have subsided, and her breathing has calmed down. Kane whispers in her ear, Thank you, Ari." "Daddy?" Smiling through her tears, she says, "I know it's you." Kane smiles back at her and says, "I'm speaking for all of us. For me, your mother, your brother, your sister, when I say thank you, Ari." Ari seems almost embarrassed when she asks, "For what?" "For having been born, Ari. For having come to be with us. For having allowed us to share time with you. Mommy and I and big brother and sister, we're all so grateful to you for that." Unfortunately, life has its limits. There are long lives and short lives, and in life, even more unfortunately, there is happiness and unhappiness. There are happy lives and unhappy lives. For all this, however, for the chance to be alive in this world, for the chance of having lived in this world, the only thing to say is thank you. When Kane says this to her, Harry gives her slender chin a little shake and says, "No, I should be the one to be thanking you, all of you." These are Henri's last words. The look on her face in death, following the torment of the drug-induced nightmares, is neither tranquil nor peaceful. It is, however, happy. "Are you really leaving us?" the doctor asks, Kane with a genuine show of regret. Dressed for the road, Kane smiles and says, "I don't think I'll ever be able to perform the duties of a caregiver properly. To tell you the truth, Kane, I still can't get over the fact that it's even possible to do it your way." With a serious look he adds, "I wonder if your hands give off some substance like signposts. Otherwise I can't imagine how she could have died so happily." Kane turns his palms toward the doctor. They're just ordinary hands, nothing special. "I'm not so sure about that," the doctor says. "If we spent some time studying them properly, maybe." Kane shakes his head with a sour smile as if to say, "You wouldn't find a thing." He does have one point to make with the doctor. "I've seen lots of people die alone, probably a lot more than any of you doctors have. That's why I wanted to bring her together with her family at the end. That's the only reason I took her hands." The doctor's vague nod suggests that he is not convinced, but Kane is through talking with him. He strides off towards the highway. He must continue his journey. His journey will go on as long as he's unable to reply to Ari's question, why was I ever born? Ari had a family at least. Her life consisted of her joining and leaving her family. Time has not even had that much. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Why does the passing wind draw Cain along on his endless journey? A journey without signposts. This is why Cain is always free and always alone. The end. Jesus Christ, this doctor, what waters, third world country crap university did he his existence out of? Because he got no bedside manner, you heck. I don't know, this doctor is the worst character that has ever appeared in any dream, right? We've seen people who tied Seth to a rock and left her to die. This is worse. This guy is... Some people are bad, but stupidity is a bigger crime, maybe. Sometimes. And then going and saying his hands are the healing thing? Really? What? This doctor, did he not take any ethical treatment classes? And he needs to hire Cain to kill someone? I guess it was because Cain was saying that when you have the nightmares, you can actually gain the strength to kill someone. So if there was someone weak standing by the bed, she could have killed that person. Yeah, incompetence is a big crime as well. Oh well. It's called restraints. They are not that advanced. Well, shit. I am mad that the stream cut out during a dream. At least cut out while I'm not reading, which is like a very tiny moment, a very slim chance, I guess, today. Oh well. They haven't invented strips of leather with small holes to put metal pins? Probably not. Just for trousers. These people suck. How did they create recreational drugs with brilliant minds like him? I guess the brilliant minds all went to create the drug. If you don't pass your chemistry class, you go and be a doctor. In this world. Not saying bad things about the doctors in our world. Okay, so, Beyond the Wall is the next one. The Watchers on the Wall. You guys like Game of Thrones? Walls now always remind me of Game of Thrones. So, Beyond the Wall. The wall is being demolished. Sledgehammers resound on both sides. The wall marked the national border for decades, until yesterday. Border might not be the right word, however. Originally, both sides were part of a single nation. The country became divided owing to differences in ideology, and the two sides remained so mutually antagonistic that a high, thick wall had to be built. This is very on the nose. Game of Thrones is alright, I'm not as enamored as other people need to be. You love it, Rusty? Yeah. I like it a lot. I'm anxious for the new season. But yeah, but this just the first screen already completely on the nose with the Germany, the Berlin Wall. Let's see. Those days are gone now. A year ago, the leaders of the two sides shook hands in an historic reconciliation. Today, after much preparation and coordination, the wall that symbolized the two sides' antagonism is being demolished. The sound of hammering signals at the end of opposition and exalts the beginning of peace. "Come on, give me a break," says Huguenot, spitting on the ground and glaring at the backs of the people swarming at the wall. "Look at them, smiling like idiots. I can't believe it." He glances at Cain by his side as if to say, "Right?" His still boyish face wears a scowl of disgust. "Tell me, Cain, you've been to a lot of different countries and seen all kinds of people. Can people just take years of hatred like this and throw it out of the window?" Cain gives him a sour smile instead of replying. Huguenot is a young man, the first person that Cain became friends with shortly after he arrived in this border town. He is pleasant enough, except for his stubborn hatred of people from the other side. One lousy handshake and I'm out of a job. I mean, really, give me a break. Huguenot used to be a border guard. In other words, one of the men assigned to keep watch on the wall. He had volunteered, eager to kill anyone who dared to come over the wall from the other side. If his superiors had permitted it, he would have gladly crossed over and attacked the other side, rather than waiting to fend off an invasion. As a mandatory part of the reconciliation, however, the border guards were disbanded. Unlike his brothers-in-arms who quickly started new lives for themselves, Huguenot was left behind by the changing times. Tell me, Cain, can people be allowed to just slot off their resentments so easily? Do they just not give a damn? Cain does not respond to this. He knows that Huguenot is a victim of the age of confrontation. Still just a young man, a boy even. Huguenot has been thoroughly conditioned since childhood to view the other side as the enemy. Watch out. The other side could attack at any time. Watch out. The other side is cruel, cold-hearted villains. Watch out. If the other side ever invaded us and occupied our towns, they'd burn down our houses, steal our property, kill our men, and assault our women. Watch out. The day is not far off when they will be invading us. It could be 3 days from now, or it could be tomorrow. They might be climbing the wall today, this very moment. Watch out. They've already sent their spies among us. And you can tell for sure who they are. They're the ones who extol and sympathize with the other side by word and by deed. Watch out. They're probing for the slightest gaps on our psychological armor. Remain alert. Be ready to draw your sword at any moment. Watch out, watch out, watch out. There was much to be found out about the other side in the history books distributed in the schools on the side. The pictures of the people from the other side portray them all as ferocious demons. I'm not the only one, you know. All of us were taught the same thing. So how come everybody but me is so happy about the wall coming down? Huguenot asks, looking utterly bewildered by these new developments. Again and again he repeats his disbelief. Finally, Cain could not help but respond to him. You were too pure, he says. What? It's not your fault, Huguenot. It's the ones who fill your pure, honest art with hatred. Spies are so easy to spot, they proclaim their love for the other country because spies. Yes, that's what makes a great spy. That and always giving his real name when asked who he is. That's something I never understood with James Bond. Wait a second now, Kang. The animals who live on the other side of the wall are the ones who did that to me. The horrible things they do. Kang cuts him short. What have they ever done? Have they ever done anything horrible to you? Well, sure, no, not really to me, but just what is it you hate the other side for? Well, you see, Huguenot is momentarily at a loss for words, until all he can do is raise his voice and blurt out, "It's true, though, the whole bunch of them are just horrible people." He folds his arms in a decided pout. How are they horrible? What did you ever see any of them do? When? Where? Huguenot stammers and sputters. Have you ever even met somebody from the other side? Cain demands to know. Huguenot hangs his head and shakes it from side to side. With a grim smile, Cain says, "Well, I have. And they're not devils or demons or anything of the sort. How could they be? You all used to be part of the same country. But that stuff is beside the point anyway. Countries and races and tribes, you're all human beings. You're all the same." Huguenot stays silent, hanging his head. See, that's exactly what I thought. When I started watching the 007 movies, like he always said, "Hey, I'm Bond, James Bond." Everywhere he goes, people call him by name. He says his name to every single person, and I was like, this was the fan fiction or the fiction inside of my head. Like, when you become a 00 agent, you're given your 00 number, your 00 status, and your name. This is your spy name. When you whatever you are, you're Daniel Craig, but when you become a secret agent of the British government, your field name is James Bond. Like, if you're Solid Snake, your name is David, but when you're acting as a Foxhound Commando, you're Solid Snake. That's your code name. This was my fiction, so that's why they could change actor and still be James Bond. But then came the Daniel Craig era of the James Bond movies, where he actually has like birth certificates saying James Bond before he actually becomes an agent and all that, and I was like, oh fuck, there goes my theory, all down the drain. So fuck that. It's always the same guy. And he actually gives his real name to everyone. That's the worst spy ever. Cheers erupt at the wall. The wall that has separated the two worlds for decades has just now been broken through. Representatives from this side and the other side walk through the opening, greet each other with smiles and firm handshakes, and embrace. The cheers grow louder, and people, mostly members of the younger generation, gather in circles here and there, expressing their joy. Huguenot glares down at his own shadow and asks Cain, "So, what should I do now? All I've ever done is hate. All I've ever known how to do is hate them." Cain gives Huguenot a pat on the shoulder and says, "It's not too late to change. You can start now." "Can I?" "You can. I'm sure of it." Cain is sure because he knows what it is like when both sides were a single country. What it was like. It was a kindly nation, by no means rich. It was yet a happy country with compassionate people. There are a bunch of people whose name is John Smith. Maybe he just doesn't expect anybody to call his bluff. No, but you see, he is actually called James Bond. We see stuff from his early years as a kid, his birth certificate, everything. Authentic, not thing that you can't argue that was a fake that he made because he's a spy. No, he goes to his old family house with everything, with his parents. He's called James Bond, really. That's why my theory is not authentic, and it sucks. Makes him suck more. My theory was good. I'm telling you, Huguenot, people can change. If you say so. Look over there, Huguenot. Look at those people enjoying themselves. Hesitantly, Huguenot raises his head. Around the wall, a celebration is beginning. Young people are dancing, singing, toasting each other, engaging in conversation, and all of them used to be companions of Huguenots who received the same education he did. No doubt the young people on the other side were similarly educated to hate. What do you see over there? Demons? Devils? Huguenot shakes his head and lets the tightness go out of his shoulders. I'm beginning to wonder, Cain, why until now I've been so... Cain pats him on the shoulder again to signal that he understands. People can change, he says. They can change from hating to loving, and from loving to hating. Yes, Cain knows all about that as well. He saw how such a wonderfully united country was divided in two at the end of a violent civil war. Don't change anymore, Cain says. Not just to Huguenot, but to all the smiling young people. A young girl hesitantly approaches Huguenot. She is from the other side. She holds a plate full of cookies. "Have some if you'd like," she says. "I baked them this morning." The cookies are heart-shaped. Urged on by the smiling Cain, Huguenot reaches out for a cookie, his face bright red. "Thanks," he says shyly, and takes a bite out of his cookie. "Good?" she asks. Huguenot turns a deeper shade of red and says, "Delicious." It's like if you have a John Smith become a spy and just use John Smith as a name because nobody expects it to be real. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. There are a bunch of people who are actually born John Smith. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that is what it is. Still. White birds cut across the blue sky, from the other side to this side, from this side to the other. The white birds sail through the sky almost joyfully, as if to tell people below, in the beginning, there were no borders. The end. Oh, this was a very short one. This was like off the time I'd take to read the other ones. And we got to the one the guy said was really dark. Okay, we have 3 left. Which one is the fucked up one? It's this one, the chorus of cicadas. I'll take a 1 minute break before we tackle this one, and I'll be right back. So, things. Oh, great. Okay, so I'm back. Hey, Arrogance, how are you doing? I hope you're ready for some story time. So, let's jump in, shall we? No use. I am hoping that it's not as bad as I'm hoping it to be, just because I've already been warned of how bad it is. If that makes any sense. That probably does not make any sense. If it's worse than the old lady, fuck. Well, a chorus of cicadas. This forest is home to a priceless treasure. A marvelous and exceedingly rare creature lives here. You could search the entire continent and never find another such habitat. Get ready for what the fuck? Of course, the value of our treasure is not apparent at first glance. The village elder holds a cup of liquor made from the fermented berries as he speaks. His ancestors have kept watch over this tiny village for generations. It is summer, and the massed cries of a million cicadas pour down upon the small fort that guards the entrance to the village. The chorus of insect sounds like a steady rain. I wonder if you gentlemen understand what I mean. The elder scans the dozen or so powerfully built men gathered at the fort. All of them wear a look of puzzlement. All but one, that is. "You said your name is Kaim?" asks one of the villagers. "You seem to know what he's talking about." Kaim nods and points upward. "It's the cicadas," he says. A stir goes through the villagers. With a delighted smile, the elder says, "So you know, do you?" Far from delighted, the men in armor share suspicious glances. All are mercenaries. They have been hired by the villagers to protect the forest's treasure. Hey, wait just a second there," rumbles the voice of one soldier, perhaps emboldened by the liquor. "Are you telling me this treasure we're supposed to protect is just cicadas? What's so special about them? They're everywhere." "That is true," says the elder, "which is why I said the value of our treasure is not obvious at first glance." "They sound just like any cicadas I've ever heard," another of the mercenaries says with a look of amazement. "Yeah, how is this chorus of cicadas different from any other? They sound just like the ones in my hometown." The other soldiers laugh in agreement. "Absolutely," says one. "No difference," says another. The elder and the villagers, however, are not amused. They turn to Kaim as the elder asks him, "Will you help us to protect our treasure?" "That is what I'm here to do," he replies. "Tell me again, Kaim, do you really know the meaning of the treasure of this forest?" "I do." "Then let me ask you this. Do you know when this summer's battle will bear fruit?" Kaim takes a sip of his liquor, releases a long, slow breath and says, "In 75 years. We're fighting for the summer 75 years from now. Is that what you mean?" Another stir goes through the group of villagers. The elder, with a great look of satisfaction, nods deeply and refills Kaim's cup. To the stunned mercenaries, the elder says, "We have protected our cicada chorus generation after generation. The ones who made it possible for us to hear this summer's chorus, listen, it sounds like pouring rain, are the villagers who were grown-up men 75 years ago, when I was just a boy." The chorus that shook the forest last summer was protected 76 years ago, and next summer the cicadas protected 74 years ago will start singing together. This is how we have protected the forest cicadas over the years. Do you gentlemen now see how much it means to us? It is a matter of simple arithmetic. After the eggs are buried in the ground, the cicadas that live in the forest spend 75 long years in the larval state. At last, in the summer of their 75th year, they become mature insects, come out of the ground and sing like mad in the treetops. For the short week or two they remain alive. Just before they die, they come down from their trees, mate and bury their eggs in the ground. The new crop of eggs then spends another 75 long years in the earth. The fact that we can hear the cicada chorus this summer means only one thing, that the forest was at peace 75 years ago. Similarly, if the forest remains at peace this summer, the villagers will be able to hear the chorus 75 years from now. We have used what little money we have to pay you gentlemen to assemble here for this, to make the forest resound with the cicada chorus in 75 years. All the mercenaries but Cain openly show their disappointment. Wait just a second now, Grandpa, says one soldier standing ramrod straight. You mean to say we're supposed to risk our lives to protect a bunch of bugs? Exactly. And even supposing we succeed in what we risk our lives for, the results won't show up for 75 years? That is precisely what I mean. Come on, old man, you must be kidding. If it were money or valuables, what would be one thing? That would be one thing. But we might lose our lives here. And for what? Bugs? Well, you are mercenaries after all. Okay now, Grandpa, I'm going to ask you one last time. I know this village is poor, and I know you people have had to scrimp and save to put this money together. There's no question about that. But when you say this is for bugs, for 75 years from now, you're not living in the same world I'm living in. For something like that, you're willing to spend every last bit of money you've got, and in the bargain, get us to gamble our lives? Are you insane? We want the children, 75 years from now, to hear the cicada chorus for themselves. What's so strange about that? Now we are having trouble understanding you. Don't toy with me, old man. You can't take a job like that, the man shouts and storms out of the fort. Some of the other mercenaries call out to him, Hey, wait for me, I'm coming with you. Risk our lives for bugs? What a rotten deal that is. And they just hurry after him. One man after another disappears with a parting remark. I'm keeping my advance though, several of them add. The only fighter left in the fort is Kine. The fake cicada noise. Can you hear it? I don't hear it. The downpour of cicada cries continues unabated. The whole forest sounds like one gigantic creature. They're mercenaries. What do they care if they are risking their lives for bugs or whatever? If you get paid, you just need to shut up. One young man is working the lookout post at the fort in place of the departed mercenaries. He asks Kane, Are you all right with this? I'm fine. I knew what I was getting myself into. I heard after they left. Those men are a bad bunch. It's true. They're really in it for what they can get after the job is done. They're fine until they finish protecting the village from the enemy. Then they start asking for bonuses. They grab valuables and arrest villagers. We saved the village for you, right? It wouldn't hurt you to give us a little extra, they say. The reason this year's mercenaries quit is because they realized there was no hope of any bonuses out of this village. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I forgive that. Why did you stay, Kine? The young man asks him. There must have been a lot of jobs that would have paid you more. I just thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to risk my life for something 75 years in the future for a change. That's all. The young man nods his head thoughtfully, then he tells Kine one of the old stories of the village. Long, long ago, way before I was born, when the elder was still a boy, there was a summer when the cicadas didn't sing at all. Of course, this means that 75 years before that, there was a battle that ravaged the forest. The elder says that the summer forest without the cicada chorus was so sad and lonely it was horrifying. It actually gave him the chills. The trees themselves were alive, where it felt as if the whole forest had died. Sitting alone in the silent forest, he felt so lonely he wanted to cry. And worse, he felt intense anger toward our ancestors for not having protected the forest 75 years earlier. The elder tells this story whenever he's had a little too much to drink. Kine nods in silence. I know all about that, he almost lets himself say. He swallows his words and smiles instead. The young man goes on. So anyhow, When the elder was sitting and crying in the forest, he says a traveler came along, a young man, big and strong, a man like you, kind. And he said to the elder, "Don't ever forget how sad and lonely you are today. When you grow up, make sure you never let the children who will come 75 years after you feel this way." The elder says he doesn't remember the man's face, but he will never forget his words. He tells this story to the young people of the village, over and over. Chaim nods again, saying nothing, but the skin of his back seems to creep beneath his shirt. All these years, the elder has kept the promise he made to the traveler. No matter how much the merchants might have pressed him, he has never let them do anything that will ruin the forest. He has kept on good terms with the neighboring villages, who avoid making enemies. He has sometimes entered into dealings that were not to our advantage, and lost many chances for us to make money. This is why the village is still so poor. The young man gives a self-deprecating chuckle. Still, not one person in the village resents the elder for what he has done. The village kids have always gone into the forest to bathe themselves in the shower of the cicada chorus. That's just how we grew up. We took it for granted. We all feel nothing but gratitude towards the elder and all the ancestors who came before him, who have enabled us to hear the cicada chorus every year. Chaim says nothing in reply, but he begins to savor the creeping feeling across his back. He brings to mind the face of that young boy he met so long ago, more than 80 years ago. "Why aren't the cicadas singing?" the boy sobbed. "Why is there not even one cicada this year? Why did our ancestors burn down the forest back then?" But he had a gleam in his eye. And that same gleam, eaten by wrinkles, still resides in the eyes of the elder, passed down from one generation to the next. It is there in the eyes of the young man guarding the fort with Chaim. This is the very reason that Chaim is here. Now the village, which has kept the peace for so many years, is about to be attacked. The neighboring country is expanding its power. Its army has violated the border and is heading this way. The prospects for victory are slim. The elder says, "If you can get us through the summer, that is all we need. All we ask is that you help us prevent them from devastating the forest until the cicadas have planted their eggs." The neighboring country is not likely to show much interest in this poor village, which is merely a pathway for the army marching toward the city beyond the forest. If the village can hold out until the end of summer and surrender with the coming of fall, the enemy will probably charge straight through the forest and head for the city. The elder says, "And when, after a nice little visit, they leave us, we'll have to offer them a parting gift. They can have this worn-out old head of mine." Laughing, he mimes cutting his own head off. The elder has transcended any unseemly attachment to the world. He has lived a full life. Now all he wants to do with his remaining time is to give the children 75 years in the future the chance to hear the cicadas. I don't think the mercenaries are coming back. I think it's just the army that's going to kill them all. Tell me one thing, Chaim says to the young man, bringing his sword closer to hand. "What's that? When you're a grown-up, will you be able to bet your life on a future that is still 75 years away?" "I will," he replies without the slightest hesitation. "We can't see the joyful faces of children 75 years from now, but I do know that the forest has to be filled with the crying of the cicadas every summer, whether now or the next year or 75 years from now, or even beyond that. That's what they call the grown-ups. That's what they call the grown-ups grown-ups' responsibility. And I'm not the only one who believes this. All the young people of the village do. The elder has raised some damn good young people, I see. What's that? Did you say something? No, nothing at all. Kim holds himself in readiness, staring straight ahead. Dust clouds well up on the horizon. An enemy unit seems to be approaching. The cicadas cry without ceasing. The enemy is coming. All right, it's time. Kaim heads out to battle. The cicada chorus reverberates endlessly, as if playing the song of life. The end. Oh. Oh, it was not that bad at all. We can imagine what happened, but it was not that bad at all. That was way... Yeah, this is exactly like I said. Having been warned, no. The person who said this one was the worst one clearly did not read the woman without memories. Yes, that is the right one. I'm sure, because when I read the title, The Chorus of Cicadas, and it said it was the darkest one, I thought to myself, this is going to be something like the Grave of the Fireflies movie, isn't it? No one was slaughtered, so 8 out of 10. I don't know if you're familiar with Grave of the Fireflies. If you're not, please watch it, but have tissues at hand. Oh god, Grave of the Fireflies. Exactly. That might be one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie ever. But that is so bad. Everything about that film, right from the beginning, the first line is like a punch in the face. So great. I wept watching that. It was really too intense. I can't recommend it enough. I have nothing else. If you haven't watched it, please do. You don't want me to spoil anything. Everything just gets worse and worse. Yeah. It's worth it. Please, you owe yourself to watch that film, and you don't want it spoiled. Let's go. Return of the Native. It's like a Dog of Flanders, but worse. I've never watched that. Return of the Native. The mother stands by the island pier, waiting for her son. Her luggage is bigger than she is. Dressed in her finest traveling clothes, she seems hardly able to contain her excitement as she speaks to Kaim, who happens to be waiting for the same boat to arrive. I got a letter from him, she says. Almost 30 years have passed since their only son left the island of his birth. There was no word from him in all the time until he recently wrote announcing his successes and his plan to bring her to the mainland. Sorry about that. I've been alone ever since I lost my husband, so just to think I might be able to spend the rest of my life with my son, his wife, and my grandchildren. She sold the house she had always lived in and has been waiting for her son to come for her. The letter arrived over a week ago. I wonder why it's taking him so long. The seas are calm. Kim arrived here on yesterday's ferry. You mean he's late? Kim asks with some surprise. Very, she replies, forcing a smile. I wonder what's wrong. Maybe he got busy all of a sudden and can't pull himself away from his work. He hasn't written again to explain. He's never bothered with things like that. Not since he was a child, she says, straining to smile again and glancing toward the horizon. No bigger than a dot at first, the boat is now big enough for a clear view of the mast in silhouette. Anyhow, I'm not worried. I know he'll be on this boat, she says, raising herself from the dockside grate on which she is sitting and waving a handkerchief toward the approaching vessel. Chaim also stares hard at the boat, which gives his eyes a stern expression. Young man, at the sound of the mother's voice, Chaim hastens to soften his gaze before turning toward her. You're a traveler, aren't you? That's right, he says. I saw you arrive on yesterday's ferry. Are you leaving so soon? She's obviously curious about the stranger, but her face shows no wariness towards outsiders. Relieved to see this, Chaim replies, I'm doing the same thing you are, waiting for someone to arrive. On this boat? Yes, probably. You haven't been in touch with the person? No, we haven't agreed on a time. I might be waiting for nothing too. Oh really? Chaim evades further questioning with a strange smile. This is not something he can discuss with just anyone. He is on a secret mission, one that must not fail. The woman still wears a look of puzzlement, but their conversation is swallowed up on the general hubbub on shore, accompanying the approach of the boat. At last the ferry arrives. One by one the passengers alight after their off-day trip from the capital on the mainland. Clutching the handkerchief to her breast, the mother scans each of them. There are peddlers who travel from island to island, hawking their wares, and men who have come to do larger-scale trading, sunburned young men and women who arrive from the mainland in groups to work on the island's farms, and men coming home to the island after a season of labor on the mainland. None of the dozens of passengers, however, is the woman's son. Once it has disgorged its island-bound passengers, the ferry takes on people crossing to the mainland. Greeters on the pier give way to well-wishers. The mother turns her back on the pier's hustle and bustle and plods her way towards the town. She hoists a heavy pack onto her back and lifts a large suitcase in each hand. But she has taken only a few steps when the pack begins to slide off. Chaim reaches out to keep it from falling. The woman turns with a look of surprise, and when she realizes that Chaim is alone, she asks, "So your person didn't come either?" Looks that way. With only one ferry a day from the mainland, all they can do is wait until tomorrow. Have you seen the anime Mushishi? Not yet, no. I wanted to get into that anime, but I got confused with how many shows there are. I was looking on anime database, and they all have the same name, so they're hard to look up. Like, I can't get any I can't get a lot of legal stuff here. So I usually download a fan sub. Because Crunchyroll, I don't think Crunchyroll is blocked anymore, but it has been blocked on my country for a very long time. I haven't tested lately, to be honest. And I don't know anything else that's legal everywhere. Are you going to stay on the island until your friend comes? I might have to. You could run up quite a hotel bill that way. I'm alright. I'm used to camping out. Camping out, she exclaims with a look of amazement. Then she smiles and says, "Oh well, you're young and in good condition. A few days sleeping outdoors shouldn't be too hard on you." "What are you going to do, ma'am? Go back home?" "I wish I could. I sold my house last week. I was so sure my son would come get me right away." A hint of discouragement clouds her face, but she quickly recovers a smile and continues. "The money I got for the house is a nice little bundle, so I've decided to spend freely for a change. See that large hotel over there? I'm staying in their biggest room and taking it easy all day and all night too. I'm disappointed when he doesn't show up, of course, but I've worked my fingers to the bone all these years. It won't hurt for me to indulge myself just this little bit." These stories remind me so much of it, very melancholic. You need to give that a try. Look it up a little better. It's one anime that's been on my radar for a long time. It's on the top of my things to watch. Wonder if Game is waiting to kill someone and it's her son. Delivered with a smile, her words touched Kane deeply. In her case, "worked my fingers to the bone" is not just a figure of speech, as evidenced by her suntanned face, which is so unsuited to the cosmetics she has applied to greet her son, and especially by her bony fingers, so ill-concealed by the cheap rings she is wearing. Hard as she undoubtedly worked, life has granted her few rewards. There is nothing expensive about her luggage. "I'm sure your son will be here tomorrow," Kamer says. Her deeply wrinkled face breaks into a joyous smile. "Yes, of course. Tomorrow, for sure," she says with a deep nod. "I hope the person you're waiting for comes on tomorrow's boat too." "Thank you very much," he replies. "I have an idea," she says. "You might get sick camping out. If you'd like, why not stay in my hotel? I'm sure we could arrange something for one extra person." I wonder how old she is. Nudge, nudge. Came sense that she is not suggesting this out of mere politeness, which is precisely why he demurs with a smile and a nod. "Thanks just the same," he says, "but don't worry about me. Just take the rest you deserve after all your long years of hard work." "If you say so." She seems somewhat disappointed, but does not press him to accept. As he watches her trudge off towards her hotel alone, all but hidden from view by her huge bundles, Kim wonders if perhaps she was hoping that his company might ease her concern that her son might not show up after all. Even so, he decides not to chase after her and retract his refusal. He is the wrong man to spend time with a mother whose only dream is to have a happy old age. Maybe Kaim is into people closer to his age. Hey, she was making the moves on him. Most likely, when tomorrow's boat arrives, she will finally be reunited with the son she has longed to see all these years. The person that Kaim is waiting for will also almost certainly cross over to the island tomorrow. The mother will undoubtedly shed great tears when her reunion takes place. Kaim, on the other hand, has a bloody job to perform when he encounters the man he's waiting for. Called it. Kaim has been hunting him. The man is a fugitive, and there is a reward on his head. He is known as the boss of an underground gang in the capital, and he has committed crimes without number. Robbery, fraud, extortion, assault, and even murder. To cap his life of crime, he double-crossed his own gang and ran off with a great deal of money. Word reached the gang only a few days ago that the man is headed for this island, the place of his birth, and they hired Kaim to take care of him. The fact that they hired Kaim means they are ready to have him killed on sight. Widescreen is killing me. It's killing me too, believe me. I hope you're using Dark Twitch. Cam and the mother meet at the dock again the next day at the same time. And again the next day. And the next. And the day after that. The ones they're waiting for never come. Fuck indeed. A week goes by. The mother switches accommodations from her expensive hotel to a cheap inn frequented by traveling peddlers. Actually, I'm more comfortable in a cheap place like this, she tells Kane with a laugh. But more than likely her money would have run out in the first hotel. Are you sure this isn't the fucked up one? If it wasn't, the text was poorly formatted. Your person is very late too, she observes. True. Who is it? He sidesteps the issue with a strained smile. He cannot answer her question if he is going to carry out his duty. And besides, he feels a tiny premonition deep inside. The mother stops questioning him and says, I hope your person comes soon. Maybe this is the fucked up one. Another 3 days go by. A messenger from the gang, disguised as a peddler, whispers to Kane as he steps off the ferry. We think he's still hiding in the capital. We're looking in every rat hole we can find, but there's no sign of him. Kime nods silently and glances at the boat. Even after the last passenger alights, the mother stands on the pier, looking up at the boat's empty deck. Let me ask you, young man, the mother says to Kane 3 days later. Does the place where you're camping out have a roof to keep the dew off? Kane has been sleeping in the dilapidated old house he found near the harbor. All I need is a place to sleep, she says. Would you mind if I joined you there? What's that? The place I'm staying now is not much better than a ruin. I'm sure I'd be fine wherever you're staying. Yes, I'm sure I'd be fine. She smiles like a child who has found a new source of mischief. Kane does not refuse her. More precisely, he cannot refuse her. She has probably run out of money even to stay in her current flop house. Kane has noticed her cheap rings gradually disappearing from her bony fingers. As they pass the night in the abandoned building, the moon their only source of light, the mother, without prompting from Kane, spills out her memories of her son. They are by no means pleasant memories. Known as a roughneck even from his earliest years, the boy has hated all the neighbors and caused his parents a good deal of shame. He would steal our money, stay out all night partying, and before we knew it, he was the #1 thug on the island. He was always getting into fights and bothering girls. During the island's annual festival, he would go wild and destroy property, so my husband and I would have to go around apologizing to everyone. The father, a skilled stonemason, lost his job when the son stole valuables from the boss's house. The mother could hardly walk down the street without being subjected to the glares and finger-pointing of the neighbors. Things got especially bad after her son set fire to the island assembly hall just for fun. His parents raised him badly. The boy's misbehavior is the parents' responsibility. The son has become such a thug because his mother spoiled him rotten. It's the parents' fault, the father's fault, the mother's fault, your fault. They heard it all. It was so hard for us on a little island like this. There was no place we could hide. The boy was 18 when he finally ran away from home, or rather, left the island when his parents all but disowned him. The other islanders rejoiced as if a plague had lifted. One man went so far as to deliberately let the parents overhear him declaring, "I hope that bastard goes to the capital and dies in the gutter." The boy's father died 5 years ago. To the very end, he would not forgive his son, and in his final delirium, he was still apologizing to the islanders. This is definitely the fucked up one. I guess, I guess you're right. But still, to a mother, any son is the baby she once carried. I never heard a word from him, but I went on praying that he would stay healthy in the capital, that he wouldn't catch whatever epidemic was going around, that he wouldn't get into fights. But that's just me, I guess. She gives Kaim a bitter smile. Or maybe it's just me being a mother, she adds. You have parents too, I suppose. Of course you do. Everyone has parents. True. Are your father and mother alive and well? Kaim bows his head in silence. On a journey with no clear beginning and no definable end, Kaim is unable to answer a question like this. Instead he asks the woman, "What is the first thing you'll say when you finally get to meet your son?" "Good question," says the mother. After thinking it over a few moments, she replies, "I won't actually say anything. I think I'll just hug him and say nothing at all. I'll hold him tight and let him know how glad I am that he's alive and well." Just supposing, though, Kaim presses her gently, if you knew that he had lived a less than exemplary life in the capital too, would you still give him a hug? Her response is instantaneous. "First I'd hug him, and then I'd give him a good talking to." She smiles shyly at Kaim and adds, "That's what being a parent is all about." The next morning, she runs a high fever. She may have survived the dew, but a night in the dilapidated building has taken a toll on the old woman's health. Even so, when it is time for the ferry to arrive, she struggles to her feet and heads towards the pier with uncertain steps. Alarmed, Kaim holds her back. "You're in no shape to be going out," he says. Despite his attempt to bring down her fever with cool spring water from the forest, it is high as ever. Her labored breathing has taken on a congested rumbling. "I have to go," she insists. "My son is coming for me. I'm going to see him." She sweeps away Kaim's restraining hand, but the effort causes her to lose her balance and sink to her knees. "If he's on board, I'll bring him here," Kaim assures her. "Tell me how I can recognize him." Cradled in Kaim's arms, half delirious with fever, the old woman mutters, "On his left cheek, before he left the island, he got in a fight. Somebody cut him. He has a scar." Kaim nods and lowers the old woman to a straw mat spread on the ground. He fights back a sigh and closes his eyes momentarily. Then he stares hard through a small window at the ferry dock. His suspicions were right after all, though he was sure of it last night. Kaim was given a written description of the man when he took on the assignment from the gang. There could be no doubt. Scar on the left cheek. The ferry is approaching the harbor. The pier is showing signs of activity. Kaim starts for the door. Behind him he hears the woman saying, "Please, don't kill him. Don't kill my boy." Kaim stops short, but instead of turning around, he bites his lip. "I don't know what he did in the capital, but don't kill him, please." She knows too. She knows everything. Damn. If you have to kill him, if you absolutely have to, please, before you do it, let me just... Kaim leaves the ruin in silence. His steps are uncertain as he makes his way in the blinding glare of the afternoon sun. Holy shit. This is the fucked up one. This time the man is there, trying to lose himself among the traveling peddlers. The man with the price on his head and the scar on his left cheek steps down to the pier. He is far more emaciated than Kaim's written description would have led him to believe. No doubt he is exhausted from his years as a fugitive. Still, he has fulfilled his promise to his mother by coming back to the island of his birth. What the fuck? This is the worst it could be. His eyes dart fearfully over the pier. His expression changes from that of a man searching for someone to the panicked look of a child who has become separated from his parent. Kame slowly plants himself in front of him. The man knows nothing of Kame's mission, of course, and has never met him before, but he has the instincts of an inhabitant of the back alleys. His face freezes, and he turns to flee. Kime grabs him by the shoulder, but lightly, in a way that would make an onlooker think he was witnessing the joyful reunion of old friends. The man tries to shake off the hand, to no avail. It would be easy enough for Kame to kill him on the spot. His eyes show that he has no strength left to fight. Kime has far more experience than the man does at surviving potentially fatal encounters. The man knows this. If you're going to kill me, get it over with, he snarls. But if you've got a trace of kindness in you, you'll give me one last chance to do something good for my mother. It won't take long, just let me see her, once. Then you can do whatever you like with me. Kime lets his hand drop from the man's shoulder. He's not going to run away. So I didn't make it after all, he says with a forced smile. His face tells Kime that he has probably resigned himself to his fate. It suggests, too, an air of relief at having finally brought his life as a fugitive to an end. How many men have you killed? He asks Kime. I don't have to answer that. And I don't really want you to tell me. It's just that, well, looking at you, I'd say I'm older than you are. And there are some things a person comes to realize when he's lived a long time. Think about the guys you've killed. Every single one of them had parents. Killing a person means killing somebody's child, right? When that finally dawned on me, I left the gang. Gangs don't pay retirement bonuses, so I sort of borrowed a little money from them and thought I'd use it to, well, I've given my mother a hard time all these years. His voice grows thick and muffled. He shakes off the emotion and proclaims with a laugh, "Ah, what the hell, that's a lot of sentimental nonsense. I don't know how many guys I've killed over the years, so I figure I'm getting what I deserve. I can hate you for what you're doing." A shout comes from the ferry deck. "We will be departing shortly. All passengers bound for the capital should be boarding now." Kime looks hard at the man and says, "Just tell me one thing." The man says nothing in reply, but Kime continues, "What's the first thing you're going to do when you see your mother?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" "Never mind, just answer the question." "I'll say, I'm back." "No, I won't say anything. I'll just take her in my arms, that's all." "Give her a big hug?" "Sure. That's what parents and children are all about." Kime relaxes the grim expression on his face and jerks his chin towards the forest beyond the pier. There's an old, broken-down house in the woods. Your mother's waiting for you there. Go to her. "What are you talking about? Don't ever come back to the capital. And don't stay on this island. Take another ferry and go far away to some other island with your mother." The man looks stunned. His voice is trembling. Kame says nothing more. He leaves the man behind and strides towards the boat before it can depart. Mission accomplished. Kime does not care if in return for his deed he is labeled a traitor to be pursued by the gang. The image of his own parents praying for their son's welfare is long since faded from his memory. "Pulling out, please hurry," come the cries of the ferry's crew. A big gong is ringing. Startled by the sounds reverberating between the vast stretch of ocean and the open sky, brightly colored birds dart up from the forest. Large birds and small birds, parents and their young, the larger birds seem almost to be shielding the smaller ones beneath their slowly beating, outstretched wings. The end. Okay, this was the fucked up one. Still not as bad as the old woman. But that took me a little bit by surprise, the fact that she knew. It wasn't fucked up either. It was sad, but it wasn't fucked up. Yeah, it was dark. That's what it said. It was darker. Oh well. Yeah, I thought it would turn to even worse in the end. Came is such a good guy. Like when Goldman asked me last night who I like best, I think it has to be Kang because you know him so much better than you know everyone else, right? And he's likable. He's very protective of the grandchildren. He tries to do a lot for Sarah too. He tries to do a lot for Lirum. He is very kind towards everyone he meets, even when they are strangers who he feels absolutely nothing for. And that says even more, the fact that he is not feeling much, like the old man from the waterfall that he saved. He went in to save him, but he was not feeling anything at all, so he could just like say, well, what a fucking moron, go away. And he is a very stand-up guy. I like that a lot about him. He is the true definition of a hero. Oh well. Last one. The next three, Kimzamenish. I have no idea what that means. The last three we already did on stream, so this is the last one. The Lottery of Life. Lottery of Life. Having kids is like playing the lottery. That was how the police commissioner put it. With a grim smile and a sigh, he was the man in charge of domestic security. Sometimes you pick a winner, and sometimes you pick a loser. Life is like that. You can't control it. A mensch is a guy with honor. Okay. I never heard that word. That's not English, is it? Heimer responded with a silent nod. Not that he was convinced that you could divide people into winners and losers, but that was how they did it here, in this country. That was the size of the city. He had no choice but to recognize it as reality, because the man who kept the peace here believed it, and this nation was known for having the best public safety of all the countries in this region. Yiddish, I have no idea what that is either. Yiddish. Shonen, you are too wise. I have you know too much stuff from too many spectrums. Every kid in there is a loser, he spat out, jerking his chin towards the juvenile prison, visible from his office window. Built to hold young criminals, this was the largest and the most strictly run and most closely guarded prison to be seen in any of the neighboring countries. Its treatment of its young inmates was also the harshest. You're a foreigner, Kane, so you may not approve, but we have our own way of doing things. I see, Kane said. Losers are losers. There's nothing you can do to make losers into winners. It's never going to happen. Far from it. If you coddle losers, they'll just turn into bigger losers and give the decent people a lot of trouble. See what I mean? That's one way of looking at things. Kime's deliberate irony was lost on the police commissioner. I don't know that word either. It's the language of the Ashkenazi Jews. I don't know what's an Ashkenazi Jew either. Takes a bunch of European languages together with Hebrew. That is, wow, I really never heard any of those words. No, it's the only way. If you're going to have a safe, peaceful country, he declared, and we'll expect you to abide by this view too. Kime had nothing more to say to him. If he were to insist on confronting the police commissioner, he might be seen as questioning the authorities, which could land him in the adults' prison. This could be easy enough to bring about for the police commissioner, and indeed for anyone in the city-state who stood on the side of the powers that be. Ashkenazi are Jews that live inside the Holy Roman Empire, essentially. Okay. So it's a very old language. Is that still used anywhere? The commissioner glanced again towards the juvenile prison. They built that place 80 years ago, he said, which is to say, the very first building they made when the present political system came into being was a prison to throw young offenders into. Kane knew this. For Kane, whose life went on forever, events of 80 years before could well have happened yesterday. 80 years earlier, this country had experienced a coup d'etat. The revolutionary government ruled the people under a military dictatorship and jailed every last person suspected of disturbing the peace and order. The government was especially wary of younger criminals. It's almost a proto-language. It's a bunch of Hebrew, German, and a bunch of other languages together. So it's not used today, right? There's a limit to how serious a kid's crimes can be. We'll let them get away with those, and the next thing you know, they're doing really bad stuff. They might be satisfied with shoplifting at first, but soon they're into burglary, muggings. They start using weapons, and in the end, they think nothing of killing people. You have to nip them in the bud. It disappeared because of World War II. Okay. There's still a few in the United States. Okay. It's still rather common in places with high Jewish populations. I really never heard of that. Portugal never did any prosecution of the Jewish, so I'm I'm amazed I never heard of that. Like in New York or something. Okay. Speak a bit of Hebrew, but no Yiddish. Yeah, I'm amazed that I never even heard of the word. Even if sometimes you hear a thing here and there, and you don't even you don't realize what it actually means or what it actually is, because you don't have a dictionary or whatever, and you don't ask because you don't want to appear stupid. Um, but yeah, I never heard that word actually. Portugal wouldn't have Ashkenazi Jews because Portugal was never part of the Holy Roman Empire. We were. There would be Sephardi Jews. No, we were part of the Roman Empire. Unless the only Roman Empire is not the Roman Empire I'm thinking of, and I'm just being stupid again. But we had a lot of we had some time of Roman occupation in Portugal. Not a lot, and I don't think they occupied the full country. But they did try. Or maybe they did actually occupy the full country. The Muslims did not. The Holy Roman Empire was around the 1600s. Oh. Not Holy, not Roman, and not an empire. Okay, then I don't know what the Holy Roman Empire is. Please. You can copy from somewhere. It was basically Germany before Germany became a country. Okay. And who was it? Wow, I'm amazed. I never heard of any of that. Because my history classes are usually Europe in general. Our history classes in Portugal are very, like, we focus on the history of Europe in general, and then always go inside Portugal to see what was happening in Portugal at every time. And I'm amazed I never heard of any of that. Multi-ethnic complex of territories in Central Europe that developed during the early Middle Ages and continued until its dissolution in the 1806. The largest territory of the empire after 962 was the Kingdom of Germany, though it included the Kingdom of Bohemia, the Kingdom of Burgundy, the Kingdom of Italy, and numerous other territories. Now I feel stupid, really, I do. That I never heard of any of this. And it's so much closer to home than it is for you guys. Okay. Well. And who was the ruler of this empire? The kids sent to prison were fed the absolute minimum to keep them alive. No doctor saw them if they fell sick or were injured. Subjected to such harsh imprisonment, they succumbed one after another, and more than a few of them ended up as cold corpses pitched out the back door. Whenever one did manage to serve out his term and return to the outside world, he found it impossible to erase the brand of loser. Children with criminal records were soundly rejected by respectable society. The social system was structured in such a way that nothing worked for them. Employment, marriage, even finding a place to live. Expelled by society, these boys and girls returned to crime as a way to stay alive, eventually ending up in an adult prison. Well, that was not a surprise. Sacro Império Romano-Germânico. Yeah, I never heard of that. It's apparently what it's called in Portuguese. There would be a king that was appointed by the Pope who would rule the Holy Roman Empire. So the Pope kind of was in charge. For a rather passive role. So this was after we got two popes. Right? Because that was before the 1600s, the two popes. Yeah, I don't... Or maybe that's what the thing is, and I was just confused. After the split of the original Roman Empire. There was a time when we had two popes, one in the Vatican and another further east, that I don't know, I don't remember where. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what that empire was. I don't remember. Either I don't know or I don't remember. I don't think I know. With a bitter smile, the police commissioner said to Kane, "I'm sure this all sounds terrible to an outsider like you." Kane answered with a slight nod. This only served to increase the bitterness of the commissioner's smile. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "And to tell you the truth, I sometimes think the system is a little too harsh on them too. But you have to realize that we're not just punishing bad kids. We're also holding them up as an example to the good ones. What would they think if they saw the ex-criminals out on the street again, walking like nothing ever happened? They'd figure that even if they got their hands dirty and spent a few years in jail, they could just go back to their old lives. That society's punishment is no big deal. That they can get away with murder. We wouldn't want our kids to be like that, would we? So the only thing is for us grown-ups to teach them to look at those guys. Look at those guys, we say. All it takes is one bad deed and your life is over. So you'd better listen to your parents and teachers and be good." Greece and Turkey, the Byzantine Empire. I don't think so, no. That is previous, I think. It was when the church split. The whole church split. And I don't think the other pope was that far east. Greece and Turkey are sounding too far east for me. I think it was in Germany or Austria or something like that. I might be completely wrong. I wish the Omir was here. He would know, I think. This he would know. He definitely had a point. Kane was willing to grant him that. I don't know, the Holy Roman Empire basically began with Charlemagne. That Charlemagne, I know I should know who that is. You know, that name is very familiar. I need to brush up my history. He definitely had a point. Kane was willing to grant him that. But still the commissioner must have noticed a hint of shadow crossing Kane's face, and he shifted his tone of voice. With bureaucratic conviction, he declared, the authorities have received word that there is going to be a coup. Of course the military have everything under control, so there is nothing to worry about. They could suppress it right now if they wanted to. They could easily attack the agitators and capture the ringleaders of the plot. In this case, though, they have decided to let it get started in order to smoke out every last one of the reactionary elements. Oh yeah, Carlos Magno. I know what that is. Well, fuck. According to the government's intelligence, the uprising was scheduled to occur that very night. We are prepared for just about any eventuality, but there is always the possibility of the unexpected. If there were a riot inside the juvenile prison, timed to coincide with the rebellion, that could be a real problem. This is why Kane had been hired as a temporary prison guard, a bodyguard for the state. I will look up the division of the church as soon as I'm done with this story, because I want to explain it, but I can't really right now. I want to look it up in Portuguese and then I'll translate it. We're counting on your skills as a seasoned warrior, which is why we're entrusting you with such a major responsibility. Be sure you live up to your expectations. If you have to resort to violence, we have no problem with that. Whatever you do, it will be for the sake of law and order. It will be in order to protect the happy lives of the decent citizens of our nation. Carry out your duties with complete dedication of body and soul. The commissioner handed Kane a one-page document. It was literally a license to kill. Act without the slightest restraint. All the prison guards have one of these. Act without the slightest restraint. All the prison guards have one of these. But still, if you hesitate to impose the ultimate punishment on a single loser, then countless winners among the upstanding citizenry must suffer the consequences. You understand, I'm sure. Once a loser, always a loser. Rather than living with such a burden, they themselves might be happier to have you kill them and get it over with. Kime accepted the document from the commissioner without comment. That completes our contractual arrangement. Now assume your post. With a perfectly straight face, the commissioner cautioned Kane. Just make sure you don't let any foolish compassion get in your way. Hey, Nickelbacker, how are you doing? Nice to see you again. Almost done with this game anyway. I'm just making it longer by talking about random stuff. I asked you. The season was midwinter, but Kane found no hint of fire burning in the juvenile prison. In their tiny solitary cells, the young inmates, wrapped in ragged blankets, lay helplessly in the dark. Painful moaning came from one cell, suggesting its inmate might be running a fever. From another came unbroken, shrill, mean laughter that could only the person's... What? From another came unbroken, shrill, mean laughter that could only the person's mind has snapped. Could only mean, I guess, that there's a missing word there, right? Doing great, good to know. I was streaming going for you. Read in Portuguese. That's probably not going to help you guys. Portuguese sounds flatter than Brazilian. I can read something for you if you want. There's a word missing there, right? Am I being stupid? Again? I don't think so. What you see is what you get, said the veteran guard, guiding Cain on his first round of inspection. Not one of these faces shows any life, so even if something were to happen, these pitiful creatures wouldn't do a damn thing. They're all losers. All right. They're breathing, but that's about it. Is there really no possibility of them being rehabilitated and becoming winners? The other guard gave Kang a momentary blank stare and then said with a laugh and a wave, No. None at all. 80 years since the revolution, and the change of generations had replaced virtually all the people from that time. Since coming of age, this prison guard, who had no memory of life before the revolution, had been implanted with the idea that people were either winners or losers, and he surely never doubted it. There's a word missing? Fine. My English is not that bad. Yay! Haven't been streaming much. Well, it's nice to see you here anyway. But it's been hit and miss. Or have you less time to do it? Free time is hard to come by sometimes. I guess I did put aside a lot of my free time when I decided to do this, but I'm very happy about it actually. It is kind of my free time where I would be playing video games anyway, so I guess I'm doing the same thing. Girlfriend working more. When girlfriends work more, we have more time for video games, right? That's my logic. They went out of their way to hire you, so it might be a little strange for me to say this, but I'm sure the kids in here are never going to riot, no matter how wild things get on the outside. Splash a little cold water on them, and they'll quiet right down. There's almost none of them you have to worry about. Almost. Well, I can't claim that about every single one of them. There are even losers among the losers, unfortunately. The guard showed Kaim to the end of the hall. And there he opened the lock on a door, so thick it could be mistaken for a section of the wall. Oh, you're working more, and you got a girlfriend. Okay. No problem, no problem. Yeah, that definitely takes a toll on the streams. Yeah, I haven't seen you online, so yeah, that's why I was asking as well. Because usually I would at least, even if I can't watch, I usually open a window for people that I like, that I enjoy watching, and I haven't seen you here lately. Beyond here are the punishment cells. This is where we throw the incorrigible losers, the ones who have caused trouble on work details, the ones who take a defiant attitude, the ones who show no sign of remorse for their crimes. Suddenly, it was clear to Khan. It was clear to him because he had experienced countless battles in his life. The punishment cells were darker and far colder than the regular cells, but from the depths of the darkness, from within each individual cell, there emanated a quiet heat that could not be felt from the regular cells. The people in here were alive. They were not simply breathing. They were alive with real passion. The crimes that originally got them locked up here were nothing much. A little burglary, some purse snatching, flashing a knife, stuff like that. If they had just quietly served out their terms, they'd be out now, living obscure lives somewhere. Instead, they resisted, and kept resisting. They called for better treatment of inmates. They appealed for an end to discrimination against former prisoners. The number of their crimes multiplied, until it became clear they would never get out of here alive. They'll just go straight from here to the adult prison. When they grow up, it'll be 20 or 30 years before they can breathe the outside air again, if they can live that long, which would be quite an accomplishment. The guard concluded with a belly-shaking laugh, which was interrupted by a voice echoing from a dark cell. "Stop that laughing!" It was a quiet but commanding voice, the one that retained a hint of boyishness. A look of fear crossed the guard's face, though he quickly reverted to a sneer. "This is the biggest pain we've got," he said. "His name is Diran. They say he was the leader of a gang of juvenile delinquents on the outside, but here is just a noisemaker." The guard picked up a bucket of water from the corridor floor with a thin sheet of ice on its surface and heaved the contents into Diran's cell. This is what works best on these kids. Behind the bars, the drenched boy had rolled himself up in a ball. This should be enough for them to freeze to death, but the water itself freezes again in the early morning, so then their hair and eyelashes and any other hair they've got gets coated in ice. Some of them have lost fingers and toes to frostbite. The guard laughed again. Diran lay there curled up, but his eyes were shining with such intensity. It was as if he were trying to melt ice with the heat seething from his breast. King knew those eyes. They were the eyes of a warrior, and not just any warrior, but one on the very front line in a losing battle who watches for a chance to turn the battle in his favor. And Cain knew something else, that the system was beginning to unravel. It had kept the people in a state of suppression for 80 long years, ever since the revolution, but the very moment of its undoing had arrived. The prison fires started that night. "Chaim, it's the coup!" The guard came running to report the situation from the outside. Fires had been set throughout the city, he said. This was, of course, the uprising the government intelligence had anticipated. Martial law was declared, and the government was mobilizing the entire police force and army. Word had come, too, that the ringleaders were already under arrest. One element, however, had been wholly unanticipated. The guard informed him, "The wind is strong tonight." Fanned by unseasonable winds, the flames were racing through the city. On orders from the commissioner, "We are not to fight fires in the juvenile prison. Is that clear? Do not engage in firefighting here." In other words, no one would be coming to save the inmates. "It can't be helped," said the guard. "The army and fire department have all they can do to put out the fires in the city and evacuate the people. They can't spare any man to protect this place, and we've been ordered to join in the rescue effort in town. I guess that means we let the kids out." This was a given, Dave assumed. Left locked up in their cells, the young inmates would burn to death. "Don't be ridiculous," the guard shot back. "These kids are all losers. We've gone to the trouble of locking them in here, and now we're supposed to let them out?" "Are you serious?" Kim replied. "Are you serious? I can't believe you'd say anything so stupid. I'm telling you, they're losers. We don't have time to save them, and we're certainly not going to let them run loose. The commissioner would never allow such a thing." He obviously meant every word he was saying. They were planning to let them die. The flames were spreading quickly, and the screams could be heard throughout the prison. There was no time to appeal directly to the commissioner, and such an appeal would only end in failure. He was sure. "Give me the cell keys," King said. "You're joking," the guard laughed. There was only one thing to do. Without a word, King landed a punch in the guard's solar plexus. They love the solar plexus, don't they? See, it's always a punch to the solar plexus. This sounds like the fucked up one. We are looking for the fucked up one. The guard went down in a heap and came toward the clump of keys from his belt. The first cell he opened was Duran's. The boy came out looking confused. "Are you one of us?" he asked him. "Are you with the coup?" "Not interested," he answered. "So why are you letting us out?" Duran asked. "Because I don't like dividing people up into winners and losers." "Thanks," Duran said. Sporting a big grin, he took the keys from Kaim and turned away to start opening the other cells. "I want you to come back," Kaim said to him from behind. "What's that?" "This is an emergency evacuation. When the sun comes up and the fires are out..." Thank you for the host, Arrogance. Appreciate it. More people can come in and enjoy the reading. Yeah, seriously, thank you for the host. This is an emergency evacuation. When the sun comes up and the fires are out, I want you to come back here. You kids still haven't finished paying for your crimes. You must be kidding. Not at all, Kim said. If you kids run away, that'll just prove they're right. Once a loser, always a loser. Is that alright with you? Don't you want to show the ones who rule this country that they're doing wrong? That people can change. That they are wrong. That people can change. But we'll never get another chance like this. This coup is going to fail. You can run around all you want, but they're going to catch you in the end. You'll always be branded losers. They might even kill you when they catch you. Duran turned to stare at Kaim. The prison was already surrounded by flames. Against this bright red backdrop, Duran's eyes still burned with the fighting spirit of a warrior. This country's political system can't last much longer. The day will come when you kids can leave prison with your heads held high. I absolutely believe that. And because I believe it, I don't want to see you die for nothing. Kaim turned to Duran to pull the guard up from the floor. Come back after sunrise. With this final admonition to Duran, Kaim hoisted the guard onto his back and trudged away. These events occurred 50 years ago. An air of freedom pervades the country now when Kaim visits 50 years later. True, he does catch glimpses of young toughs and juvenile delinquents where the nightlife thrives, but he feels this is just a sign of the free and easy times. An old man calls out to him, "Are you a traveler?" When Kaim nods, the man says with a smile, "You're in luck. We're having a celebration in Revolution Square today. I hear the grand old man of the revolution is going to attend. It'll keep going all night long." A celebration? That's right. I see you're too young to know what happened here in the old days. We had a coup 50 years ago on this very day. The coup itself was put down in one night, but the rebel troops set fires all throughout the city, so the rest of us were running around like crazy in all directions. Fanned by the wind, the flames quickly enveloped the whole city, and a lot of the city people were stranded on a sandbar downwind. I was one of them. I had my pregnant wife and baby daughter with me, so I couldn't just dive into the river to escape. Before we knew it, sparks were raining down on the sandbar, and I figured we would be done for. We'd all burn to death as soon as the dry grass caught fire. Just as he was giving up hope, he says, a helping hand was extended to them from the most unlikely source. The kids from the juvenile prison came to us. They were all skin and bones, and their prison uniforms were falling apart. The prison staff hardly fed them a thing, but they pulled what little strength they had. They saved old folks and children from the sandbar, and they struggled to douse the fires that caught in the dry grass. I saw one boy carry a child across the river and collapse and die the second after he reached the other shore, and some of the ones who were fighting grass fires were overcome by smoke and burned to death. They risked their lives to save us. their own lives were not worth living, but those losers risked their lives to save the lives of winners like us. Yeah, I guess there is no real fucked up one. Well, I still think the one with the woman waiting for the sun was bad enough. When the sun came up and they could be sure that the fires were safely out, the young inmates went back to the juvenile prison. Yes, it's true. The place was an absolute hell for them, but they went back inside just the same. Not one of them took advantage of the confusion to run away. They played it strictly by the rules, wouldn't you say? We were really moved by their behavior. Most people started saying that maybe these losers had their good points after all. Maybe once a loser, always a loser was wrong. The whispers spread throughout the country, quietly but surely. Soon the view emerged that treatment of juvenile prison inmates should be improved. Another increasingly widely held view was that society ought to welcome ex-inmates more warmly once they had paid for their crimes. Finally, the change in attitude toward loser children took the shape of dissatisfaction with the political system that had continued to foster such a dictatorship, and 40 years ago, a second coup occurred. This next coup took the shape of a citizens' revolution that involved the masses, and for that reason, it succeeded. That's how the form of government we have today got its start. Listening to the young man's reminiscences, King finds himself smiling and nodding again and again, deeply moved. This last thing the old man tells him is the name of the hero who led the revolution and became the first president of the new government, Tiran. Tens of thousands of people have gathered in Revolution Square as fireworks are sent aloft and the brass band plays the rousing national anthem. The grand old man of the revolution takes to the stage amid thunderous cheers and applause. Tiran, Tiran, our Tiran! Advanced in years now and having long since removed himself from the center of politics, Tiran still has that youthful, fiery gleam in his eyes. There is no way for him to spot Kaim among the assembled throng, and even if he were to notice him, he could never imagine that this young man, unchanged from 50 years ago, was the temporary prison guard on that fateful night. Still the old hero proclaims, "People can change. There are no winners or losers." His words are greeted with cheers and fireworks, and the excitement of the celebration reaches its peak. Kane makes his way to a stand at the far end of the square and buys himself a cup of liquor. He raises his cup to the hero of the revolution, who from his distant vantage point appears to him no larger than a speck. He downs the drink in a single breath. When the intensely strong liquor has passed his throat, it leaves a sweet and mellow aftertaste. The end. That was very good. A good note to end this game on. Well, that's it. That was the last memory. These ones were, some of them were very, very hopeful. I like them a lot. Good note to end, we're not losers. I really enjoyed this game. I am glad that I finally played it. Really, really glad. That took a lot of reading though. I hope you guys had fun. I know this was the worst F out of 10 gameplay on the stream, but I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we went back and read all of this. I haven't done the Temple of Enlightenment. I don't want to do it on stream. I spent enough time bashing my head against the wall last night. And the Kalolan village, the whole tournament is also pending. But I need to level up Cook a lot before she can compete. I don't think we need any of that. The story is what really matters in this game. We had all the story we could have. There's nothing left in terms of story. I'm glad you had fun, Shonen. I hope every one of you had fun with the game. I really love the story. I love these dreams. Even from the darker ones that made me cry to the other ones that make me laugh. They're all really great. And these are characters you want to meet, and even though the game was not exactly what I wanted it to be, it is a great game. It's like I said last night, it is uneven, but it was very good. Now let me look up the thing. So, what I have right here, which is the name I know in Portuguese, is the Great Split of the Occident. I'm going to Google Translate. But it happened in 1378, and it went on until 1417. So I was correct in saying it was before the 1600s, at least. One thing that I got correctly out of this history debacle. Let's see, Portuguese to English. The Great Western Schism. Is there such a thing? The Papal Schism. Yes, that's when there were two popes. That's what I said. Right? Yeah, one pope was in Rome and the other one was in Avignon, France. No, the Pope of Rome went to Avignon, France, and there was another one on Pisa, Rome. On Pisa, Italy, I mean. So that's what I was trying to reference. The Great Western Schism, if that is how it's called in English. It's a literal translation. So I thought I'm going to get another game so we can do something for a little while longer. Not for long. Just if you guys enjoy it, I can always continue tomorrow. If not, it's just a thing to have fun. Because I wanted to look into the game again. I don't remember much about it. And I'll be right back.